What exactly happens in this movie? What's the reason for all these uncertainties? What's the exact rule of camera movements, montage, and director's decoupage to achieve the form with such a script? Last Year at Marienbad looked like a postmodern movie. We cannot specify the timeline in it. The definite past and present cannot be defined in it. This is what it looks like at the first glance. But the truth is that we're dealing with a modern European film, and its uncertainty has a reason that we get to later. Our access to time is through the uncertain narrative of the main character of the film. Someone who is not sure about what he's saying at a certain point. On the other hand, the female character keeps denying his narrative. It's as if, even though time has passed, we are in a timelessness and void. Because past and present time cannot be reliably remembered and defined. One of the films that Alain was inspired by is Kurosawa's Rashomon. Rashomon, like this movie, is a multi-narrative story about relativity and unreliability of the truth. This movie has nothing to do with Brecht's work, but the method Brecht avoided, like many other European movies, avoided in this film too. The method that Brecht called kitchen theater or kitchen sink drama. Brecht said in this type of theater, the experience of going to the theater is similar to go to a restaurant because everyone has a meal in front of them and nothing is left after eating and digesting it. In Brecht's epic theater, asking questions, thinking about the subject, and education are the main concerns. We don't see such a thing in films of that time and many films of today. Because the audience encounters an object of entertainment, and after the end of it, after it is consumed by the audience, there is nothing left of it. And no question is asked, no rethinking is done. Nothing from the movie is left for us and everything is over like our popcorn. We're not supposed to think about anything. We're not supposed to ask ourselves or the person next to us a question. We are not supposed to over-question the society, culture, and beliefs that we have accepted by convention and genetics. We are not supposed to see or think about human issues and feelings. Even the most important thing that should happen doesn't happen most of the times, and our feelings are not aroused. What's in movies like Rashomon, Persona, and Last Year at Marienbad, the audience has an active presence. The audience must watch carefully and correctly, must choose, and in the end, many things are related to his or her own point of view. The meanings of these films, the position of these films, the question they raise, and even the feelings they raise often become personal. These films are like a living and independent being. Over the years, whenever someone comes to them, they can talk to them and always have new things to say. And whenever you watch them, there is still a new experience. Therefore, even though they were made many years ago, they never become old because they are works of art. Now let's go back to the movie. Last Year at Marienbad is about uncertainty. Uncertainty about time, people, memories, places, and even statues that both man and woman have a story about, and the third person who enters and seems to have more knowledge adds his story to the previous two. The main issue of the film seems to be about the uncertainty of relationships, truth, time, art, and cinema. When we see the shot of statues many times, the background actually changes at least twice. The same goes for the female character's room. The room changes several times, and at first it's empty, and gradually it is filled and furnished. Sometimes time exists and sometimes doesn't. When it stops and turns into void, along with the stopping of time, people stop, like the statues in the garden. And again, with the flow of time, the dried, clear statues become people who talk together, walk together, eat together, and play together to fill the time they have with something. Alain Resnais has a unique decoupage in this movie to reach the form. His decoupage is mostly based on transitions and compositions, many times with match cuts and maintaining the compositions. He creates the sense of uncertainty and mixing of time. The way that the script was written definitely had an impact on Resnais and his decoupage, because the writer Alain Robbe-Grillet is one of the authors of New Novel. In this movie we see a lot of contrasting and contradictory things side by side and together. From the visual qualities like hard light and high contrast lighting to an overexposed shot that is suddenly cut into an underexposed shot. In all these narratives, there is one narrative that attracts attention and can justify all the uncertainties, forgetfulness, and denial of the two main characters. The narrative that this man and woman who don't seem like bad people see each other here or somewhere else last year. The man liked the woman and the woman sometimes paid attention to the man, which create the thought that she also liked the man. When woman's husband has left the room, the man enters the room, sees the woman alone, loses his control for a moment, and assaults her. When he is telling the memories of last year, when he reaches this point of the story, he keeps saying with a sad and distressed expression, "No, it wasn't forced, no, it wasn't like that," etc. As if because of the heavy trauma that happened to them last year, they forgot everything. The memories of that night, their hearts and their minds are broken into 1,000 pieces. And now, seeing each other again, and with the insistence of the male character to remember the story he had with the female character, gradually the pieces of the puzzle find the right place in each of their minds until the unfortunate events that happened last year is remembered and rebuilt. In fact, the film is the manifestation of the trauma and this mental process of these two characters. The jumble of the time in this movie is the reflection of jumble of time in their minds and their memories. When unfortunate and sad things happen to us, they may be so sad that we can't and don't want to remember them. And this issue is not completely in the conscious level. This is a defense mechanism to protect our psyche and mind so that we don't have a mental breakdown. We may not remember that event for a long time, and if we do, we will not remember it completely. The reason is the shock and trauma of the incident. The same thing happens to these two people. So they may have seen each other last year here or in another place. They may have spend a lot of time together in garden, halls, corridors, and theater. And this time has created a relationship and a love story for them. But everything goes wrong when they see each other in the room under the special night, and the romance that was being built turns into an assault contrary to what they expected. This incident was so heavy for the psyche of both of them, so their minds and this defense mechanism forced them to forget everything. So when they were recalling every and each event of the previous year, they don't want to reach that night, and when they reach that night, they don't want to accept it. I think the woman is reminded everything faster. That's why it keeps. I think the woman is reminded everything faster. That's why she keeps denying everything and telling the man to leave her alone. In my opinion, all the uncertainties, all these different and distorted stories are deficient painkillers and delays created by the mind of these two people to deny and prevent the recollection of this night and this memory. A love story that ended before it started. In the strangest and the worst possible way, but without betrayal, without lies. From somewhere in this love story, one of the characters has to leave the story and the other person didn't allow. At this moment, it has turned from romance into a tragedy. Then, no one wanted to remember this tragedy. All these uncertainties are to avoid remembering this tragedy that they were the main characters of it. A tragedy that didn't happen in front of their eyes on the stage of theater like Ibsen's Rosmer, but happened on the stage of life, and they themselves were the actors. It seems that the whole movie was formed between the two performances of Ibsen's Rosmer. In this play, two characters commit suicide and come together after life. The male and female character, due to their renewed awareness of the truth and the appearance of leaving the scene together, their almost black clothes, their hesitate, heavy and slow steps. It's as if they're going to embrace the death with a short distance together. Maybe because in reality that has been remembered and reconstructed, their lives cannot be imagined together in any way. So they cannot accept this reality, this truth. The female character's always absent husband who has all his skills in a particular game is always indifferent and late. We and the two characters of the movie are watching the reconstruction and remembrance of the tragedy that happened to them together. But how? As I said, the Ibsen's play is about two characters. As I said, the Ibsen's play, Rosmer, is about two characters who want to run away together, but it happens with their suicide. The male and female character witness the tragedy that happened to them or is about to happen on the stage of theater. We are witnessing a tragedy within a tragedy. The first tragedy occurs with the disappearance of the love story, and the second with the reconstruction and recollection of that love story that two characters gradually remember, and especially how it perished. Once they were present in the tragedy, and once with us, they watched the tragedy happen to them in their mind by remembering and recreating it.